This is our home store. This is our home store. Thank God for life. These people born everything in this camp. Ya Rasulullah Mazallah. Ya Rasulullah Mazallah. Alhamdulillah for life. Thank God for life. Thank God for life. Kai. We don't even know, maybe we have casualty for now. But all our people that are entered bush, they are coming back one. Allah continue to guide and protect us.
Wala kana zama nan za a kashe ka yau nan kwana ba za ka yi ba za a kashe ka kai na ga ma da ce ko gonda nake kai yayi sakanci ya ci farin tun da an karwata libabban
Rasa kaga ɗakin ka ba.
Viewers, if you are new to this channel, kindly like, share, subscribe, and please do not forget to hit the notification bell. Let's look at this disturbing story. This one is talking about the Boko Haram and ISWAP. Of course, how they burned down some military base in Borno State. And reading from the Vanguard newspaper. He said Boko Haram. He said again, Boko Haram raided 2 military bases in Borno, killed soldiers, injured others. He go for that to say that armed terrorists suspected to be members of Boko Haram ISWAP raided the 3 Battalion, a military formation in Ran, the headquarters of Kala Bajge, and another base in Gajiram town of Nganzai, local government area of Borno State. You go for that to say that Ran, located in Borno Central, about 200 kilometers from Maiduguri and bordering the Republic of Cameroon, and Jiram in Borno North, approximately 82 kilometers from the state capital, were both attacked in the coordinated raids. Let me quickly say that this is disturbing. This is quite unfortunate, and this is where we are going to start this conversation, and we shall equally be looking at the federal government of Nigeria saying that they have now decided to form forest guards as a way of combing our forests and combating insurgents, combating Fulani militias who have been wreaking havoc, who have been hibernating in different parts of forests in Nigeria. We understand that in Nigeria, you have about 1,129 forest reserves. So an each state is expected to, of course, recruit about between 2,000 and 5,000 personnel, depending on their financial capacity. But let us first of all start with this issue of military bases in Borno State being raided, burned down by the ISWAP and Boko Haram. And the way it is, I personally am not comfortable with this story. But I think if you look at what happened critically, it does not suggest that insurgents, or rather Boko Haram or ISWAP members, were better equipped than the military. Because what actually happened is a situation where perhaps, I think they were caught off guard. If you look at what actually transpired. We understand that all those vehicles that were burned down, of course, armored personnel carriers, I don't think it's like a competitive advantage on the part of Nigerian military. I don't think the insurgents have access to such. So I think what was lacking is intelligence, one. And two, if you look at the facilities that were burned down, you see that it is a major military facility in that area, meaning they ought to have some level of intelligence, some level of surveillance, like drones. And apart from that, even physically, we understand that military used to build trenches, one, to give them advantage to maintain a fighting position. And another thing is to prevent the enemy from getting to where they want to get to. I listened to the video conversation of the president of Burkina Faso, who emphasized how a facility, a village, a community is protected against the enemy. How he even encouraged the locals, not just the military personnel this time around, to build trenches around their surrounding. And the ultimate aim is to prevent the enemy from getting where they want to get to, so that you are not caught off guard. Because I look at what transpired, it looked as if they were caught off guard. Because it goes to show that the military personnel, of course, the Nigerian military personnel, did not have the opportunity to use even their own weapon to fight back, because they were taken unaware. But if there were trenches built, or rather dig around the barrack, perhaps one or two layers, when the enemies approach, of course, they will encounter the barrier, they will encounter the difficulty. It will not give the opportunity to fight them before they cross the barrier. But what happened is quite unfortunate, I must tell you. And because surprisingly, they got to where they maintained a very good position and they launched attack. And what we are seeing is a monumental waste of, one, military hardware, two, the facility, three, military personnel. Of course, that is the height of waste when looking at the insurgency. And it's quite unfortunate that we are seeing the resurgence of insurgency, because the thing was coming down. I think all attention for now was focused on how the government could address and tackle the issue of Fulani military, which have already entered into almost every strata of the society. Because in Delta City the other day, we saw how a community raised about 10 million naira to go and pay ransom to release their loved ones who were kidnapped by suspected Fulani militaries. So we thought attention had been shifted to that. But surprisingly, we are seeing this resurgence of insurgency in the northeast part of the country. I understand that sometime under Muhammad Buhari, we had a situation where ISWAP and Boko Haram had conflicts. And they started fighting themselves. Of course, that was a plus for Nigerian government, for Nigerian army, for Nigerian people. And they decimated each other. And Nigerians had sigh of relief. But unfortunately, it looked as if the insurgents have reunited and they have come with a new vigor to start fighting Nigeria. But let us take our attention to the issue of Fulani military, as it has to do with the forest guard that the federal government is proposing. Let me quickly say that the states, from what I can understand, are willing and ready to fight bandits, to fight Fulani military. I think what was lacking before now is the ability to have arms that will give them the capacity to combat that threat. Because, for instance, if you look at the southwestern part of the country, you understand that they already have arrangements, talking about Amateku. I don't know whether they will be drafted to occupy the vacuum of the forest guard that the federal government is proposing. But what I'm trying to say in essence is they were already positioned to address the challenge. What was lacking is just the ability to bear arms. Now that the federal government have agreed for them to bear arms through the office of the National Security Advisor, because we understand that that was lacking during Muhammad Buhari, when Amateku could not allow to bear some level of arms to give them the capacity to fight. And we understand that the office of the National Security Advisor actually have the power under the Constitution to give an end user certificate to anyone that wants to import or rather procure arms in that capacity to combat crime and criminality. But now that the federal government have come out clearly to say, yes, this is what we want to do. We want to see a seamless process where, of course, the state governments will be swift, proactive in grabbing this. Because if you look at what is happening in Plateau, what is happening in Benue, Southern Kaduna. These are places that have seriously witnessed serious level of insecurity, serious level of killings, even with the one that happened in Boko and Basa local government area of Plateau recently. The governor, Mufwam, made it very clear that this is not just Fulani activities, that it is purely genocide in nature. Of course, a situation where people are targeted to wipe out a race from their ancestral home and perhaps take over their places. And this thing is not just happening in the north as we used to have it. It's already in every strata of the society. That is why the issue of banditry, the issue of Fulani militia need a priority attention, and it need a swift one for that matter. But again, I don't know beyond what the government is doing. I don't know how they hope to address the issue of the Fulani capturing, subduing, and subjugating the Hausas in the north. Because from what we have seen, the Hausas themselves are already crying out. I saw a video where a man, of course, made it very clear that there's actually a big difference between the Hausas and the Fulani. That it's even it is even the right time for them to come out and start publicly renouncing that they are not Fulani. Of course, according to him, that they are even more Igbo than the Fulani. And of course, before now, we understand that the Fulani, the Hausas see themselves as Hausa Fulani, and these are people who came into Nigeria from Senegambia in sometime 14th, 15th century, and in sometime 19th century, they successfully established a caliphate in Sokoto, which is equally seen as the Fulani Empire. But again, I think that's the problem of the North and problem of the Hausas. They should think out of the box how to address it, because they were too weak to allow the Fulani enter into them and subdue them. But the one that concerns the whole people, the whole Nigeria, insecurity, Boko Haram, Fulani military, of course, I think that's the focal point. That is where I'm advising all the state governors to grab this opportunity with speed of light. Hence, the federal guards will be given opportunity to bear arms, because the federal government made very clear that they will be adequately trained, they will be fully armed, they will build capacity to enable them combat these threats. Of course, we understand that nowhere is safe in Nigeria as it is. If you talk about the southeastern part of the country, the issue of Fulani military is a menace. The southern part of the country here is a big issue. You have seen Sheyi Makinde of Oyo State the other time raising alarm that the Fulani militias, or rather the bandits who have been dislodged in the north, are already hibernating in southwestern forest. A situation that made Amateku as a den to raise about 2,000 men as a way of combing southwestern forest to dislodge them. Only recently we saw a video that made the round where someone was shouting. Of course, you could clearly hear him saying that Fulanis, no, Boko Haram, were caught in somewhere in Oyo State, I think around Ibadan also, and it got to show that nowhere is safe anymore, and that the government need to act urgently and swiftly. And good a thing, the president has sworn an oath to protect lives and property. So it's a responsibility that's incumbent on his office, and it's upon his shoulder to do that responsibility. Of course, the governors as well goes by the name of the governor and chief security officer of their respective states. Have been an advocate of devolution of power, in the sense that the governors should not be just parading that nomenclature as the governor and chief security officer of their respective states, that they should be given some responsibility in terms of security power and security responsibilities to parade. And that takes us to the issue of the security in terms of in the exclusive legislative list, that it should be removed from the exclusive legislative list and it should be put into the concurrent list, where both the State House of Assembly and National Assembly can have the power, the right, the legal right to legislate over it. Of course, if that happens, the state governments will not be going to the federal government begging on how to fight insurgency, or how to fight Boko Haram, or how to fight Fulani military. Of course, they will know that they have the power constitutionally to build capacity to do that. But let us watch and see how it pans out, and the federal government is now ready to synergize with the state government to secure lives and property in Nigeria. I must say a very big thank you for attending this video, and I'm Mr. Matt.